أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما تحب وترضى من صلي عليه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم علمني ما ينفعني وانفعني بما علمتني وزدني علما اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Back on our discussion there, our reader is not here. Anyone got the Quran open there? Sakina? Bismillah. Give the verse and the surah and the verse and the page so that everyone who's got a Quran here can follow on it. They don't have a Quran. Faisal, there's no copy there of the Quran. See, I don't think it's open. Okay, I'll order more, but just see there's some copies. I don't know. I don't know. Check. Okay, anybody reading?
Page 939, verse 45.
Okay, Bismillah.
And relate to them the example of the life of the world, which is a water we sent down from the heaven. Then the greenery of the earth because of it came out thickly, and then it became dry grass, which the wind scatters. And Allah is powerful over everything.
Hashiman tadruhu riyah. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ مُقْتَدِرًا. Right? Now, the interesting word here which the Mufassirun have gone into length in terms of discussing was the word Hashiman tadruhu riyah. Right? And Allama Abul Hasan Ali bin Ismail bin Sayyida, he gives a tafsir of the word al-Hashim. And he says anything which is, which is porous, right? And something which is hollow, right? If you were to crush it, do you notice how when you crush that thing, it just like disintegrates, right? That is al-Hashim. And then he says, it also means that, if someone has to, split your head open, if someone has to crack your skull open, how you get, pieces splintering over, that is al-Hashim. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you such a graphic example of how this very verdant, rich world out there, green world out there, that like it's a fool's paradise out there, right? That you get so deluded by, all of a sudden just turns dry and empty and void of any value, that it just crumbles before your sight. So at one moment it was all green and verdant and wonderful, and the next moment it went dry and so empty and so without any life in it there, that it became literally ripped into pieces, right? Then he says, it also means, to break somebody's nose. When you break somebody's nose, because the nose is a very sensitive area, right? You get splintered, your nose actually splinters, right? Hashim, right? And now he gives a very interesting example here. He says the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's grandfather or great-grandfather was known as Hashim. Hashim. Now this is when he's paying attention. The Prophet ﷺ's grandfather's name was Hashim. Now look at how the Arabs, now this is the construction of language. And this is very interesting. It's a unique phenomenon, but not only to Arabic, but particularly to Arabic, right? They always play around with the words. I'll give you an example. Ilm, Ayn, Lam, Mim, right? If you turn ilm around, it becomes amal. Ayn, Mim, Lam. And ilm without amal is of no benefit. And amal without ilm is also of no benefit. They work together. And if you have ilm and you have amal, then you will have lama, lam, mim, ayn, which is light. Right? So in the Arabic word, in the Arabic language, they'll use one word, right? And sometimes the opposite of the meaning of that word, right? They will also change the placing of the word itself. So if it's hasham, it will become mahash. And it will become the opposite. I'll give you a few examples just now. Or hamash, or shaham, right? All of them branching off from the same meaning. Some of them being similar to the word hashim, and some of them being the antonym. So you have synonyms, or words in similar meaning, or attributes similar to that type of quality. Because always in Arabic language as well, you'll see that it's always related to something that happens. Like a verb. A verbal is almost like a verbal noun. You understand? So that is, when you say this one here, it means this, but it's attributed to that. And a language which has a similar type of style to it is also Zulu. Right? I don't know Zulu at all, so I'm not even going to try. But I know one thing, right? That I got an Inguni skin which was destroyed in a flood. But anyway, that's besides the point, right? The Inguni skin on the floor. A friend of mine, sold it to me from Johannesburg, and that Inguni skin is known as fly in the buttermilk, right? Because if you see the skin, right, it's white, right, with like streaks of black across the center. So for them, when they saw a fly with its wings spread out, or a large number of flies, in the buttermilk, what's buttermilk, like yogurt, like yogi sabani, lassi, I call it lassi, right? So like a whole lot of flies over it there, scattered out there. They called it fly in the buttermilk, right? And the Red Indian language is also like that, like walking moon, or like stone feather, or they have those funny, like the Sunni Indians, right? The Arabs also, right, attribute a great deal of imagery into their languages, right? And they play around with the words, right? That's why in the Quranic language as well, you will notice that one word can have so many nuances, right? And create a totally nuanced meaning to it. So like dalwa, thumma dana fatadalla, right? It literally means something which is suspended, right? And dalwa also means a bucket, which is suspended into a well, right? So what happens is, it's held together by a string, and it keels over the well. So that's how Arabic imagery works. So the word Hashim came to this one. The Holy Prophet ﷺ's grandfather was known as Hashim. His name was Amr. The Prophet ﷺ's great grandfather's name was Amr, but he was known as Hashim. And the reason for this was the Arabs suffered a major drought in the desert. So you must know how difficult things were. And for a period of time, the Arabs of Makkah didn't eat meat or didn't have any decent food to eat. They were basically surviving on vegetation, which was minimal anyway, and people were dying of starvation and this and that, or whatever it is. So Hashim, the great-grandfather of the Holy Prophet, the Banu Hashim, as they are known, the children of Hashim, or the sons of Hashim, right? He went to Syria, right? And he was a very generous man. So he went to Syria, he brought a whole lot of grain and this and that and everything, and he came back to Makkah. And what he did was, he slaughtered a few camels. And after slaughtering the camels there, he made up a broth, which is known today as tharid, right? It is a broth which is made of meat, right? It can be made with vegetables as well, but it's made with meat, with a few vegetables here and there, with some barley in it, right? And it's made into a broth, like a soup, like a curry, like what we call a curry, right? And it has a very nice flavor. It's a very soft, and it's a very, it's very gentle on the stomach. It's not like Indian food or Chinese or, Thai food, very strong. This is very, very mild, and it's like chicken soup for the Arabs. Not chicken soup for the soul, chicken soup for the Arabs, right? So it's and with meat. So what he did was that he brought this, he slaughtered the camels, he made the tharid made out of barley and this and that, or whatever it is there, good fiber, which is very good, etc. And he took bread, because there was a shortage of bread, because there was no grain around. So what he did, he took the bread and he... Okay, say it from there quickly. Alright, so he took a piece of bread. And he broke it up. He ripped it into pieces, and he took it there and he put it into the broth. So what happens is that it thickens the broth, and at the same time there, when you're eating it, you're going to put a bread into it there, and you mop it up with the bread, so to speak. So because he ripped up the bread like that there, and he put it into the broth, and he served this food to all the Arabs, which was the only decent meal they may have had in months. Right? This action of his, of ripping the bread apart and so on there, right? They said, Hashi, he ripped it apart. This hollow bread that you have, this big khubz that they have, it's hollow on the inside, right? So he ripped that bread apart, and Hashima, right? So he ripped the bread apart and he put it into the thing. So they kept his name Hashim, one who rips it apart. Hashim, got that? Okay? So the next time you see Hashim Amla ripping apart the English, bowling attack, you must know why they kept his name Actually, now you know, don't rip people apart, please. And don't rip people off either. Inshallah. Okay. Right? Hamash, shaham, right? Al-hamsha, right? It means to speak, right? Movement, right? And a woman who speaks a lot, right? You call her hamsha. I shouldn't be telling you of this, right? So you know, the lips are moving all the time, right? Right? She's tearing through people's conversations. You know, like, you know, she doesn't give anyone else a chance to speak. Right? Can you see how the word has so many? You know, it all. There's another word for it. Maybe I think they should have it in newspapers before. You have 3 letters, and out of that, then you make. You know, it's like it's called anagram, not anagram. I don't know what's it called. Huh? No, not the 9-letter word one. You know, like you have 1 or 2 letters from there, and from there you make up 1 word, and the second word, and it becomes 4 letters, and then 5 letters, and 7 letters, until you make God knows how many words from that one couple of letters. I don't know what's it called, but that's how the Arabic language also works. So Quran subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the dunya is destroyed, and you know, it becomes literally like totally ripped apart before your eyes. You know, they say literally people's lives are ripped apart. This is what happens in the dunya. And you know, one day it's a picture perfect life that you're living, and the next day the very fabric of your existence is ripped apart in front of you. And that's the reality of dunya. There's nothing out there, right, that is worth clinging on to. And Quran gives you the next disease, which makes us cling on to dunya. What happened to the good reader? Shit. Okay, next one. Anybody? Volunteers? Bismillah, carry on. You don't volunteer, I catch you. And if you're looking into the Quran, you're in big trouble.
The wealth and sons are an adornment.
Al-mal, wealth. Wal-banun, sons means children, right?
The wealth and sons are an adornment of the life of this world, and the lasting are the good things. Their reward is better with your Lord.
Slowly, number 1. Number 2 is that, see, Quran is telling you, Al-mal wal-banun, wealth and your children are the adornments of the dunya. Really, what makes life worthwhile? What gives your life value in real terms? Your children and your wealth, what you possess. It may not be a lot. It may not be a lot, but that's what gives you security. That's what gives you value in life. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-mal wal-banuna zinatul hayatid dunya. Is the only thing that gives you joy. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not telling you that it's bad. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, although you may incline towards your whatever you possess, and you may incline towards your children, but وَالْبَاقِيَاتُ الصَّالِحَاتِ خَيْرٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ ثَوَابًا. But the everlasting deeds, and those remaining, those deeds which will remain perpetual deeds, right, are better for you in terms of reward and in hope. Am I right? وَخَيْرٌ in hope. Why? See how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that we prioritize 2 things. We work very hard, we earn a halal living, which is essential, and we have a natural duty which we impose upon ourselves, which has been imposed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well, in terms of our responsibilities towards our children. And these are the 2 things that give us hope and value and add value to our lives. Now if you look at al-mal, right, you're spending your day in either acquiring mal, right, to put food on the table, right, and you're spending your time and prioritizing your time in terms of your children. And you find joy in both. You may not like your career, you may not like your job, you may not like your boss, right? But you stick all that out there for the end of the month. Why? I'll get something out of it. It'll pay my bills, right? My children will be fed, right? I'll have something in my pocket. I'll be able to survive. So it gives you some degree of encouragement, and it motivates you to carry on, right? So that mal gives you that. And banun. And out of the wealth that you have, the most amount of wealth and the most amount of time and the most amount of priority that majority of people give to are the children, right? Right now, as you are seated right here, if I were to ask many of the parents, right, if you didn't have any children, most of them say, I'm working. I won't be working so hard. I won't be slaving away. Why? I got this to worry about, the child's school fees to worry about, then university fees to worry about, then they're getting married after that day, and then, it's a never-ending story. Right? Right? Had it not been for the degree of love and commitment that we have for our children, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed upon us and granted us. He's granted us the love. It is fitra, it's tabi'i, it's in our nature. Loving our children is tabi'i, it's natural. Right? You love your child the moment you find out you're pregnant. Any mother started loving the child after she gave birth to it? Anybody? I don't think there's a mother born on planet Earth who started loving the child after she gave birth to it. You understand? Chances are that the love for the child is so ingrained in you that a mother will gladly give up her own life and endanger her own life to safeguard the life of the baby that she's never seen, never met, doesn't know what the child is going to do to her in the future, but the mother is willing to sacrifice. And that's tabi'i love. It's inherent in you. You can't take it out. You've been genetically, programmed, right? And hardwired. You're genetically hardwired for it. That's it. Right? You get a few, cuckoos here and there, but I mean, generally genetically hardwired, right, towards it. So, if you look at the amount of time, commitment, and priority that you give to your children, and the amount of what you spend on them, and I don't mean physical wealth only, your time, your efforts, right, your strength, right, and the difficulties that you undergo for your children, at the end of the day, more often than not, every person and every parent, or most parents, think that it's worth it. It's worth it. And that's the adornment of their world. Even if the guy is a loser, if his children come out as winners, and they make good for themselves, and in spite of the fact that those buggers, after making good for themselves, forget about their own parents who made it happen, the parent will still have the decency, he's happy, she's happy, you know what, let them live, it's okay. We did all this for them anyway. Don't we say all of that? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, as good as this is, as great as the selflessness is, as great as the sacrifice is, as great as the time that you spend and the priorities that you give to acquisition of halal rozi, to put food on the table, and to support your wife, to send them on holidays, and to send your children to the best universities and best schools and give them the best weddings and this and that. All that parents do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in terms of true value, وَالْبَاقِيَاتُ الصَّالِحَاتِ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ ثَوَابًا وَخَيْرٌ أَمَلًا. The thing that you should actually be giving greater priority to, right? And the one that you should be giving more importance to is baqiyat as-salihat. Those deeds that will last perpetually, eternally. Khayrun inda rabbika thawaban. They are better to you in terms of reward from your Lord, and greater for you to pin your hopes on. Very important point Allah made. You and I, we put our hopes on that we work for 20, 30 years there, our retirement will take us through. We put our hopes on the fact that, I invested wisely there, in my twilight years there, I can go for my umrahs, I can go for this, I can go for that there. You know how much we put our hopes on what we've earned? Work it out. Work it out. You put your hopes that, you bought this good car, right? And you put your hopes on the fact that if I take out insurance on the car, right, if anything happens to it there, right, I'm covered. All that is putting hopes on not losing what you've worked so hard for. Tell me if I'm wrong. Or is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling you? Guaranteed what you work so hard for, whether it's your wealth or your children, at one time or the other, will A, worst case scenario, let you down very badly, or two, they just won't survive. They won't survive. You got no guarantee that your children will outlive you. You got no guarantee that your children will fulfill all your dreams and all the effort that you put into them there in terms of finance, time, commitment, sweat, blood, sweat, tears, sacrifice, or whatever it is. You don't have any guarantee whatsoever that you are going to get something out of it. Right? The investment in comparison to the returns in terms of the commitment that we make to our children is at best 1%, 2%. Right? Then, thank you very much. Ask the insurance statistician, he'll tell you. And I'll give you a reason for that. I'll give you a reason for that. Ask all the dead people down there. If only the dead could talk. They say, my children give me 2%, 0.2%. What is that, 0.2%? One Eid al-Adha, one Eid al-Fitr. In between, one Fatiha. That's all. That's all. You know, there's an incident, I don't know whether I mentioned it to you guys there. My grandfather was alive at the time, and a very wealthy person from Westville was passing away. So they called my father and my grandfather, come read, they give the talqeen, and so they went there. Anyway, the person passed away, right? He just closed his eyes, khalas, all over. All the sons are standing around the bed. So the one son went and took out the watch. Common sense. Take out the watch. Man has died. Now you got to close the eyes, close the mouth, So he went to take it. Right there, while my father and grandfather are standing right there, the man just passed away 10 seconds ago. The two of the brothers said, "Oh, what? See, what? Joe, he took out, he won't watch already. He was going to put my father's watch away. He wants to steal the father's watch. My father had a Rolex in his hand. He used to steal the father's watch. The man didn't even, I don't think the room even left the room yet, right? And already the guy is thinking this way, see, stealing my father's watch. My grandfather came by, keep quiet, man. You're waiting for this man to die. And that's what in your head. Why is this guy taking this out? For what? He's going to steal it. He's going to steal away my inheritance. That's the way it is. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, that which you put your hopes on, that my children will do good for me, they'll be our emotional and our physical crutches when we are old, and they will take care of us, and they will do this, and they will support us. Allah is telling you, don't put your hopes on it, because you will be